So, with the basic infrastructure completed in parts 1 and 2 of the build, it's time to take things to the next level. Time to bring in all the cool equipment that racing teams use, gear you've probably dreamed of having in your own living room. Now, you all know I'm a big F1 fan. That's no secret. And you've probably noticed that all my builds are inspired by this. Well, the day has finally come when I base a build on something other than F1. For all you Yanks who only know F1 from the Drive to Survive show, great news. It doesn't get any more American than this because this part of the build is based on a Hollywood movie. Well, it's not my fault that Hollywood has surrendered to the greatest motorsport in the world. So, as promised, all my designs for this build are inspired by a movie, and the fact that this movie just happens to be about F1, well, that's just a happy coincidence. Alright then, once again we're starting with an updated version of the full set of build templates. In this new version, I've made some modifications to the older parts and added the new components we'll be working on today. As always, you can purchase these templates from the slot CraftMaster store, link below, or get them for free through the Bro Army. If you're one of the folks who already bought a previous version and want the updated one, just shoot me a message and I'll send it over. No extra charge. Now, the basic materials we'll be using today are a 400 by 400 millimeter, 9 millimeter thick MDF board, and a 400 by 200 millimeter, 3 millimeter thick board. The 9 millimeter board will be used for the internal walls, benches, and engineer's station inside the garage. The 3 millimeter board will be used for the screens and backlighting. Don't worry if that's not entirely clear right now. It'll all make sense as we go through the build. The simplest way to cut the pieces is to glue the templates onto the boards and cut around them using a hand tool, or even better, a power tool. No complicated measurements or sketching required. That's the beauty of using templates. Everything's quick and easy. But that's the simple way. As for me, I decided to go with the easiest way. One way or another, we've got all our pieces ready to go. If you went the more classic route with your cutting, unlike me who took the path of least resistance, you'll need to carve out some inserts. A blade or a chisel will do the trick. MDF is actually really forgiving. It peels off in layers like a flaky croissant, so just keep shaving it down until it's deep enough for the 3 millimeter pieces to sit flush. Next up, it's glue time. We're starting with the central engineer's post. As you line up the pieces, you'll notice that the carved out sections create a neat little channel, just wide enough to fit the 3 millimeter material. So, only for these two pieces you need to carve about 1.5 millimeters deep on each side instead of 3. Easy math, right? Don't worry, no calculator required. To bring the pieces together, I'm using Gorilla Glue here, which means you'll want to add a little moisture to the surface to help it bond properly. Just a light mist, not a swimming pool. With that done, I then attach the 3 millimeter bench to it. Once the center post is glued up, I move on to the side walls. sticking them on as shown, then follow up with the back walls. Make sure that the longer piece with the large window has the carved inserts at the back, and then you attach the shorter piece on top of it, aligning the angled side. Mess this up, and you will have to start all over. For the back wall, make sure that the carved side is at the back and that it aligns with the edges of the side wall. Everything gets clamped together tighter than a race day pit crew. If you can get your hands on some of those corner clamps, trust me, add them to your toolbox. They're a game changer. After that, repeat on the other side wall. Next, I glue the small bench to the center back wall, then move on to building the bases for the smaller screens. These bits are a little more fiddly, so I'm switching to super glue for precision and to keep everything locked in the right spot. No wonky screens on my watch. The next day, our pieces are fully set and ready for sanding. Time to smooth out those connections and knock down any sharp edges, because nobody wants a splinter from a scaled-down garage. Now, glove up, we're about to paint. We're using a black primer, and if you're wondering, no, this isn't the final color. Think of it as the undercoat of greatness. In the next episode, we'll dive into detailing, splash on the team colors, and breathe some serious life into these pieces. For now, I start by brushing on the primer, then follow up with my trusty little sponge roller. That helps wipe out the brush strokes, soak up any extra paint, no drippy disasters here, and leaves behind a nice subtle texture. This is my go-to technique for pretty much every project. It saves me from breaking out spray cans or an airbrush, and dodges all the fumes and cleanup headaches that come with them. As for the results, I'll let you be the judge. But, spoiler alert, it's looking pretty slick already. And just like that, the paint's dry, and we're ready for the next step. Smells like progress. Now it's time to head back to the templates and follow the wiring guide, marked with bright yellow lines so even your slot car can probably see them. Once again, we'll be using the no-wire wiring method. Yes, that's a thing. By using copper tape instead of traditional wiring. Fancy and functional. Quick heads up, if you've downloaded the templates, you might spot a few differences between what's on screen and what you're holding. That's because some of my brilliant ideas didn't survive first contact with reality, so I made a few improvements. Moral of the story? Don't just skip through the video. Watch the whole thing. Seriously, you might thank yourself later. So here's what I'm doing. I'm sticking down the self-adhesive copper tape exactly as shown in the templates. I'm using a mix of 3mm and 6mm widths, depending on where it's going. And since the tape's a bit thin, I double it up for extra durability, because nobody wants a flaky power connection. The big thing to watch out for here is polarity. You really don't want your positive and negative tapes touching unless you're into short circuits and the smell of regret. For the parts that the two tapes actually cross each other, use some electrical tape between them for insulation as shown on the video. I know, it sounds complicated, but trust me, if you mess it up, you'll know. And it's super easy to fix, so don't panic, just keep calm and tape on. For the top gap on the center engineer's post, I'm placing tape on the inside of both sides of the gap, keeping them carefully separated. This will be our connection point for the power supply coming from the roof of the garage. And for that, we'll be using the little piece that looks suspiciously like a sewer pipe straight out of Super Mario. Don't worry, it'll all make sense in a minute. Here you can see one of the improvements I made, avoiding a tape crossing altogether. Much cleaner, much easier. I also marked the polarity on each tape so there's no confusion later on. It's like labeling your lunch in the office fridge. Just saves everyone a headache. On the central post, I extended the circuit underneath the top and down toward the bench. That'll eventually power the monitors we'll add later. This whole section will connect to the rest of the setup via the Super Mario pipe we talked about earlier because, yes, even tiny engineers need power delivered in style. The back wall is much simpler. Just 2 copper tape strips starting from the top and running down the back. The plan here is to install some lighting that shines through the window from behind, adding a bit of depth and giving the whole garage a more dynamic, lifelike look. For the next step, riddle me this. What's long and sticky? A stick. Yeah, okay, that one was terrible. But hey, it's still a decent segue into what's coming next. We're going to need some matchsticks. You can grab these at your local craft store, or if you're feeling extra DIY, just repurpose actual matches. Just, make sure they're not the on-fire kind. We'll be using these to create a small gap between the backs of our screen units and the screens themselves. Why? Because we're making room to fit some LEDs behind them. That's right. Light up screens, baby. We're adding some real glow to this garage. Because if your pit crew doesn't have backlit displays, are they even trying? Once we've boxed up both screen backings, we'll set them aside to let the glue cure and move on to making the back wall window. For this, I'm using a piece of acrylic salvaged from an old poster frame. Pro tip, if you're in the market for some cheap acrylic, just buy a poster frame instead. It's often way cheaper than buying acrylic sheets on their own. Go figure. I cut out the window section from the template and use a drop of water to stick it onto the acrylic so it becomes, well, a template. A few passes with a sharp blade is all it takes. Once you've scored it deeply enough, a little pressure will snap the piece cleanly along the line, like magic. Now, for the curved section, this part requires a bit more patience, but don't worry, it's easier than it looks. After cutting the piece to shape, I run a black marker along the edges. This gives the acrylic a slightly tinted, more realistic glass look, like it's got a bit of grime and mystery to it. Bonus trick, if you want the whole window to look tinted, color the entire surface with the marker, then gently wipe it down with an alcohol wipe. It'll remove about 90% of the ink and leave behind a subtle, smoked glass effect. Classy and cool. Once you're happy with how it looks, glue it in place. And just like that, the window's done. With that out of the way, we get back to the screen back pieces as the glue should have cured by now. Trim off any bits sticking out like a bad haircut, give them a quick coat of black paint, and boom, they're ready for their LED glow-up. Just like before, we're using trusty 5-volt self-adhesive LED strips you can cut to size. Basically, light-up stickers for grown-ups. You'll need 2 strips, one for each side of the screen's backside. Stick them down and hook them up to the prepared circuit using copper tape. It's literally peel and stick like LED band-aids. No soldering, no tears. Just make sure you've got the polarity right and avoid short circuits, unless you enjoy the smell of burnt dreams. Everything is labeled, so it's hard to mess up, though never say never. Pro tip, Give the contact points on the LED strip a light sanding to reveal a bit more copper before slapping on the tape. It helps the connection and saves you from future... Why isn't this lighting up? Meltdowns. Once it's all hooked up, give it a quick test. I rigged up a nifty little power cable using some crocodile clips and a sacrificial USB cord I found in the bottom of my tech drawer. Works great, especially if you don't have a fancy variable power supply lying around. Next up, the little back wall we attached to the side panels. I'm turning it into a backlit shelving unit, just like the ones the big racing teams have in their garages. Fancy, right? So we wired up the back piece and it was time to install the LEDs. Sounds simple? Well, buckle up. Because this is where things went slightly off track. Pun absolutely intended. I had to improvise a bit. The original plan was to slap on 2 small LED strips, one at the top, one at the bottom, and wire them in a neat inline setup. That kind of worked. If you enjoy your LEDs looking like they just woke up from a nap. They were super dim, like romantic dinner mood lighting instead of race day intensity. So, I pivoted. Switched the wiring to a parallel configuration and bam, bright, lighting like it was meant to be. Problem solved. I also updated the templates, so if you're following along, just use the revised schematic and you'll be good to glow. Now, this one was way better. Now to the back wall. This is pretty straightforward. 1 small LED strip, connect the poles, test, done. Finally, it's time for the center engineer's post. For this one, we're using 2 LED strips, each cut to fit the space between the 2 small holes. One will light up the overhead monitors, and the other will shine on the monitors down on the bench. Gotta keep mission control looking sharp. Now, since the LED tapes we installed earlier already bring in the positive and negative poles to each side of the piece, all we need to do is stick our new strips in between and wire them up. Easy connection, clean install, and your engineer's desk goes from basic to broadcast ready. Not bad. Now it's time to make the actual screen displays. For that, I whipped up some slick-looking printouts inspired by real F1 telemetry and garage scenes. They look legit because they are. These are fan-made designs by F1 enthusiasts. Just to be clear, and for any lawyers who might be watching with their cease and desist goggles on, these printouts are not for sale, were not made for profit, and are purely for the love of the sport. There's a free download link in the video description, and feel free to share it around to spread the F1 fandom far and wide. Because let's be honest, if we're getting sued over miniature pit wall monitors, we've truly arrived. Now, as you can see, the LEDs behind the prints are a bit too enthusiastic. The brightness washes out the image, making everything look like it's being viewed from the surface of the sun. To fix that and bring out those rich blacks and vibrant colors, we're going with a double layer of the prints. So make sure you print 2 copies of each screen. Before doing anything else, glue the 2 copies together using paper glue. Take your time lining them up. If they're even slightly off, you'll end up with a blurry mess. And let's be honest, if we're faking F1 telemetry screens, they might as well be 4K sharp. Once you've got your double-layered masterpiece, it's time to mount them. You can just glue them to a piece of acrylic. But me? I busted out my old laminator like it was 2003. A couple of passes through and boom, crispy, glossy, screen-like finish. If for some reason you want it even thicker, hey, no judgment. Just toss it in a second laminating pouch and run it through again. Works like a charm. Once that's done, cut the screens in groups, just as they're printed. Don't try to separate individual monitors. Then use double-sided tape to attach them to the screen back pieces. Do not use glue here. You'll want easy access to the wiring later in case something decides to misbehave. Give it a quick test, and if it lights up like an F1 control center, you're good to go. Rinse and repeat for the rest of the screens. And there we have it. Everything's ready to slide into the panels. For the backlit shelving, I'm using a simple piece of paper as a diffuser. Once that's in position, just push the lighting unit into place. It should fit snugly, but if it's being a bit stubborn, don't worry. Give it a quick sanding or use a bit of tape to keep it secure. Then go ahead and pop in the screen panels. The two power outlets should align perfectly. A small strip of copper tape is all you need to bridge them together and create a single circuit. Nice and clean. Next up, we move to the center section. Just push the monitor stands into the pre-drilled holes and run a quick test to make sure everything's lighting up like mission control. Pro tip: if you notice any light leaking through the tiny screen gaps, just use a strip of 1mm foam to seal it up. It's like weatherproofing, but for LEDs. And with that, the build is done. Now all that's left is to install these beauties into our garage setup and enjoy the glow of victory and some very tiny telemetry. To install everything, we'll need to make a few minor mods to the existing garage. Don't worry. The new templates have your back. Just follow the bouncing ball, or in our case, the drill bit. The modifications are mainly focused on the roof, and they're designed to let us power our new pieces straight from the garage's main power source. That means no extra wires running across your table like spaghetti. Just one power source to feed them all. Neat, right? Using the template as a guide, we'll drill holes on the sides, right where the power terminals from earlier episodes are located. Then we'll add a gap near the center, in line with the vertical power ends. The goal is to create aligning slots and clean power connections that do two things. 1. Power everything when the roof's in place. 2. Hold the pieces securely, while still letting you easily take it all apart when needed. It's tidy, it's modular, and it's way more satisfying than wrestling with hidden wires later. The last of the mods is a gap on the center pillar, which needs to align perfectly with both the roof and the gap we made in the center engineer's station. Use the template as your guide, but learn from my mistake. Make the gap the size of the narrow side of the Super Mario pipe, not the wider one. And yes, I keep calling it the Super Mario pipe. No idea why. But at this point, I'm fully committed. And honestly, I kind of like it better that way. The idea is to use this so-called Super Mario pipe as both a stabilizer and a power conduit, channeling electricity from the roof down to the unit and into the monitors. Once the gap is in place, cover both sides with copper tape to ensure good electrical conduction. Just be careful that the two sides don't touch. They'll carry opposite polarity, and contact between them will cause a short circuit. Now for the final step of the entire build, making our connectors. And for that, we're going back to good old slot car technology, using the most iconic material in our hobby, braid. For the center unit, cut 2 pieces of braid, about 40 millimeters long, and fold each one in the middle. The idea is to attach the ends to the Mario pipe and let the loop rest against the center pillar, so when the roof goes on, the braids make contact with the power outlets. To fix them in place, I'm using copper tape, just like duct tape, but for electricity. Stick the ends of each braid piece to both sides of the Mario pipe, then bend the loops at a 90-degree angle so they're positioned to meet the roof contacts. Do a quick test fit with the roof. If the connection isn't solid, a simple trick is to fold the loops onto themselves to double their thickness. That usually solves it. Looks good so far? So, let's move on and apply the same method to the back wall. Another quick test with the power cable, and if everything lights up as it should, we're ready for the full dress rehearsal. Placing the roof on and powering up the whole system. Here it is, fully illuminated and proudly unveiled. A Formula One level, fully equipped double garage, built to honor your prize slot cars. But we're not done yet. In the next and final episode of this mini-series, we'll breathe life into this raw build by assigning it to a racing team and adding those finishing touches that transform a simple box into the headquarters of your racing campaigns. Until then, stay driven. Do you like what you see? Do you want more? Want to support the channel, be part of our crew, and enjoy some seriously awesome perks whilst doing it? Well, buckle up, because here's the lowdown. For just $1.49 Australian per month, you become a mate. That's right, you get a loyalty badge that makes you stand out of the crowd. You get early access to all our future videos, your name immortalized in the description section, and priority replies to all your comments. But hold up, it gets better. For $6.99, you level up to Bro. Your name will be written in blood at the end of every video. Plus, you get to shape the show by participating in members-only polls and hang out in the exclusive Bros-Only live chat. Feeling extra fancy? Become a Mega Bro for $19.99. Connect with us on social media for live updates and behind-the-scenes photos, enjoy discounts on merch, and see your name in shining gold on special slot CraftMaster gear because you deserve it. Still not enough? For $59.99, you can become a Super Mega Bro. Get free templates of our builds, troubleshooting help, join our exclusive Super Bro live streams, and even design your own custom merch. And if you're really serious about being the ultimate fan, for $149.99, you'll be my man. My man! Enjoy free merch every month and get featured in one of our videos. Yes, you heard that right. So what are you waiting for? Hit that join button under this video, pick your membership level, and join our crew today.